Hello, everybody. So we've received the hashtag Where's the Interpreter judicial review verdict, and I am so pleased to be joined by Lynn Stewart-Taylor and Chris Fry. Thank you very both for joining us. So we've got the verdict. How do you feel? I think it's really good for all of us, for all of the community. I think the judicial review is not simple and it's not a straightforward, you've won or not, but there's a lot of information there that we need time to look through. But generally, overall, we're very happy that we've won. And thank you so much to Chris and to our barrister for the fighting that we've done for us, and also to Katie Rowley. Huge congratulations and thanks to her, because she's had to go through all of the prep and the questioning and all of that. So, I mean, what a day for us, honestly. It's been amazing. Chris, how do you feel?
Satisfied, I think. I'm very pleased that we've had such a thorough decision by a judge who's tried to understand the issues involved with deaf people and BSL. I mean, this decision and the judgment, which goes to some 60 pages, which we're in the middle of trying to get interpreted, sort of discusses BSL as a language in its own right, dispels what it calls prejudice and stereotyping about deaf people being able to just rely upon subtitles as an appropriate means of communication. It talks about how a more inclusive solution of an on-platform interpreter should be pursued. And ultimately, all of those things are a fairly landmark achievements. You know, it's the first time the court's really considered this issue. It gives traction to a number of other campaigns which are on the go. And fundamentally, the big headline here is that the court has made an order declaring that the Cabinet Office discriminated against Katie Rowley by failing to make reasonable adjustments, by failing to provide British Sign Language interpreting for those data briefings in September and October last year. So this is a High Court making an order that one of the most important departments in government has discriminated against Katie. Now, the order refers to Katie because Katie was the claimant in this judicial review. But of course, Katie isn't the only person discriminated against in these briefings. There are various different numbers have been given to the court, but between 73,000 and 150,000 people who use BSL who were also unable to access those briefings. And so I hope that each of them feel that, that they can feel as though the court was on their side. So I'm satisfied on that. What we haven't got is the guarantee that every briefing moving forwards will have an on-platform interpreter, which is what we hope to achieve. But it's rare that you win everything in a case. What we have achieved is, it is an outcome which compels the government to ask itself the question about where is the interpreter for every broadcast it puts forwards. So the court has said that an on-platform interpreter should really be the default setting. There may be some situations where the occasional broadcast might warrant an in-vision interpreter. But as a matter of policy, we'll wait to see what the government's going to do about that.
Yeah, and it was a fantastic decision. Lynn, what do you think this is going to mean for the deaf community? I think it means that we're going to get genuine access. I think before there was always that question of, will it be interpreted, will it not? And there was that uncertainty. But I think now there is going to have to be a genuine consideration of how information will be interpreted, and that should be guaranteed. So it means we should be better able to guarantee that we will access information, because we've missed so much. And I think also I'm really pleased that the judge has recognised that we have been discriminated against. I think that's a really big win for the community. I think that's a breakthrough. They've listened to us, they've listened to the barriers that we've faced. So I'm hoping that it will be easier to challenge barriers in the future. Yeah, I think it's really good that the deaf community feel like we've been listened to. And I know, Lynn, you've been working on this for a long time. What do you think you've learned personally on this journey? Never to do it again. I think it's really stressful. No, I've learned an awful lot working with Chris. I mean, poor Chris, I've questioned him constantly through everything, and he's just sat there and taken it and just let me ask all of the questions that I've got. I mean, the court system is so complex. There's a lot of jargon and stuff, isn't there? So, honestly, I've learned so much through this, and not just the jargon and the justice system, but also from the community. I've realised that we are a really strong community, and I think sometimes we forget this, and people just kind of go on their own and they think they're the only ones. But no, the community, we are a really strong community. We have got the power there that's just under our skins, and I think I've realised that we need that. We need to get that back, because there's more to come. This is not the end by any stretch of the imagination. This is the beginning. So I think, now is the time to take a stand, to not accept inequality. It's 2021. It's time we stood up, we supported ourselves, we supported each other. And I think this is a really good beginning to that. So I've learned an awful lot. And I think there's so many people now looking up to you and how you've run the campaign and what you've achieved. And possibly they're thinking that they'd quite like to do something similar, but are unsure whether they've got the skills and the experience to do that. What would you say to people like that? I think the first thing I would say is you don't need skills and knowledge in campaigning, because I didn't know anything when I started. I don't know anything about judicial reviews or anything like that, but I think you learn along the way, and it's important to just have support and people that you can ask, what does this mean? What should I do in this case? And gather a group of people that have got different skills, get everybody together. And I think that's your first step. And then you will learn through the process. Anybody can do it. Anyone can, you don't sit there saying, I'd love to, but I can't. I mean, I look back at some of the things I've done and I think, gosh, we've really done this. We've really achieved it. You can definitely do it, definitely. And I'm really pleased that we have done it. So talking about campaigning and things, do you think honestly that you will stop, or do you think it's in your blood now and you want to move on to the next one? Should we be fighting for the BSL Act? What's the next thing that you think we should be fighting for? I think the important thing is to get the community together. I think for each other, I think, some people say, I don't need that, I'm okay. We need to think about each other. We need to think about the next generation. And I think the BSL Act is for that. It's thinking about the deaf people who are children now and the world that they'll grow up in. And we need to help them. We need to say, what is it that they're going to need? What will be best for them? And I think that's the main thing. We can't just sit back and go, well, I'm all right. We need to think about the future generations. And I think the BSL Act would help with that. So I think that's what we kind of need to get back to. We need to think of the next generation, and they need us. Yeah, it's thinking of the future, absolutely. So 16 months this campaign has been running for, and it's been a bit of a roller coaster. And as Lynn said, the deaf community have really pulled together, and they've been a massive support for your campaign. What have been the highlights from the last 16 months of your campaign, Lynn, and also Chris as well? What's been the best bits? The highlights for me have been all the messages, Facebook, Instagram. When we did the walk, that was amazing, because I felt, it was going all through coronavirus, so we were technically on our own, but I felt that people were there and that the support was there. And there were people that I'd never met before and I didn't know who were sending me messages of support. And it really became a family. You think we became one big family. And I think that's been probably the best memory for me. I think, yeah. Yeah, because I remember, you're right, I'm feeling a bit of a struggle, and then suddenly there was this overwhelming sort of surge of positivity from the deaf community, and then when the walk arrived in London, that was really emotional. Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, because I wasn't expecting people to come up because we were walking through the coronavirus pandemic, but people were coming up and they was offering their support, and it really gave me chills. I had goosebumps. Then when we arrived outside Downing Street, with the signs, I realised, oh yes, yeah, this is this is one of those moments that you don't forget. This is one of those moments that will change things, and not just for me, but for all of us, because that's what we did it for. You can't do these things on your own for yourself. You've got to do things together for everybody, and I think that's what I'll remember. Chris, how about you? What have been your highlights?
Oh, well, it's been a privilege to work with Lynn, Katie, Kathy Casserly at Cloisters Chambers, our incredible barrister, and with the team at RAD. This has, just to echo what Lynn has said, this has been a real, a really fantastic example of a community coming together. And I've been humbled by the trust that's been placed in me, which at times can be fairly overwhelming. But actually, I've learned a lot too. I went to school with what they called a deaf unit back in the day, so I was already fairly deaf aware. I had, my dad used to work. He used to be he was a priest, and he used to do some work with the deaf community, and all of those things must have sort of stuck with me. And but the amount I've learned about working with the deaf community has been immense, and that will stay with me forever. I think I've made friends in this case, which I hope to be forever friends. So from a personal perspective, I've taken all of that away from it. From a professional perspective, what it's brought home is how much more there is to do. The law itself is not generally accessible to deaf people, and I want to be part of changing that, to provide better access to justice. I think there are all sorts of ways in which deaf people are ignored, and I think one of the major things from this case, and seeing all the deaf people's organisations coming together, and the community coming together behind Lynn and Katie and others, it gives me huge amounts of confidence that actually this is the start of a much bigger change, and I would like to be part of that moving forwards.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think this is the first step in an ongoing journey, and there is more to come, but it's such a fantastic first step, and I'm so pleased that that we've been able to take it. We will just wrap up in a second. Is there anything that you want to say as a final word? Yeah, I just want to say to the deaf community, do not accept any inequality. You do not deserve it. There is support out there. We can work together. And thank you so much to the organisations, to RAD, to the other organisations that have been supporting us. It's been a big help. Without their help, it would have been a struggle. So thank you so much. And thank you so much to Chris for putting up with me and my torrent of questions. What does this mean? What does this mean? So thank you. Chris, any final words or thoughts?
No, just thank you for trusting me with this, and let's see where we go next.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time this morning. I know you've got a list of other people that want your attention. So from everybody at RAD, a massive thank you to both of you for your hard work and all the effort that you've put into this. We've been really proud to stand with you, and I'm sure we will see each other again at future events. So take care, both of you, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Congratulations.